Hello, pattern readers. I am back with some Wheel of Time TV show news that we've all been waiting for. This is going to be a roundup of a lot of recent news that I've been wanting to comment on, starting with the most recent teaser from the official Amazon accounts, updates on release dates for Season 1, filming for Season 2, comments from Brandon Sanderson, and more. If you want a little update on my schedule for the channel, make sure you watch to the end. But for now, let's get to the news. On June 30th, Amazon Prime social media accounts shared their most recent teaser and let us know that the show would be premiering in 2021, which is music to fans' ears who have been waiting for what seems like an age. It had been rumored and even thought likely in the fandom, but we could not be confident of it until official word. Of course, while we're still waiting on an exact release date, fans are still going to do this. But remember, worst case scenario, at the time of publishing this video, there is at most 181 days left to wait until premiere. Before I play the teaser, I also wanted to share that we have some new information that points to possibly an earlier release date this year than I know I had been expecting. For this, we go to Adam Whitehead, writing for Dragonmount.com, who shares that release dates for TV show tie-in book editions have been moved up to September 16th in the UK, September 28th in the US for the mass market edition, and October 5th for the trade market edition. Even though these dates are still in flux and we should treat them with caution, it is a possible indicator that they may be looking at a slightly earlier release date than had previously been rumored, possibly in the September to October range rather than the November to December range. And just as a reminder, I've brought this up before, but this is based on the idea that these tie-in editions are often released rather close to the premiere date of the show, a little bit ahead of time, just to kind of get people hyped up and wanting to buy the books. Now back to the teaser, because the other big reveal here was a brand new logo design and animation, which looks like it could be either part of a title sequence or maybe even the entire title sequence if they're going with a shorter opener. Let's take a look at these details because there are so many wonderful little nods in this design to the books and the existing fandom. So watch and then we'll talk about those. I wanted to comment on the overall decision to make a design change first before I get to the details. There are, of course, fans who are asking, well, why didn't they just use this classic design that already existed from the books? And so I wanted to address that. There are some book-to-screen adaptations that do use designs that are drawn directly from book covers. The two biggest ones that spring to mind are The Hunger Games and Harry Potter. And instead, in this case, they are drawing from several descriptions and designs from the books, but creating something that is original that we have not seen before. So for me, I think if they had stuck with that original design, it would be signaling that they are attempting to film the books. And in actuality, they are instead adapting the books for film. There's a distinction, and there is a reason why I'm using that exact phrasing that I'll come back to in a bit. Another perhaps not trivial reason to note is that many people have pointed out a similarity in this original design to a certain mouse from a company that is known to be litigious with any potential infringement of its copyright. Seems like another good reason to move in a different direction. But now let's talk about what this new design does communicate and how it incorporates several designs from the book into one. The very first image we have is a close-up on what turns out to be a scale on the Great Serpent, and they have lit one side of it in a way that is a clear reference to the ancient Aes Sedai symbol of Saidar and Saidin. We then pan out as the serpent spirals. What I love about the spiral is that it appears to continue on infinitely. We can easily see that the overall design is an Ouroboros, a snake biting its own tail, just like the ring of the Aes Sedai is described. There is also an edge that seems to wrap around like a Mobius strip, which is the way the ring Dream ter'angreal is described and shown in this chapter heading. Finally, these markings, which we have seen before, more on that later. and the head of the serpent are reminiscent of Chinese dragons, which is how the dragon of the dragon banner is described. I actually felt really strongly when I first watched this that the serpent reminded me as much of the dragon as it did a serpent, keeping in mind that the Wheel of Time dragon is described as serpent-like and without wings. So there's 4 distinct designs from the books that have been incorporated into one here. 2 of them directly reference the Aes Sedai, and the 3rd indirectly, which could be an indication of an increased emphasis on Moiraine and the White Tower that we might expect to see in the show. I also like the way they have really emphasized the mirroring effect in the lettering. We first see double V's, which spin around each other and become opposing ends, which expand out into the mirrored W and M in Wheel of Time. It references the idea of duality that is so prevalent in the world building of the series. So eternity and duality are the 2 biggest themes I think they are emphasizing here. But there is a 3rd, more subtle, that I want to emphasize further. Let's go back to the original concept of the wheel, which was illustrated by a 7-part literal wheel. The reason for the spokes was to emphasize the idea of 7 ages that repeat infinitely as the Wheel of Time turns. Lauren from Unraveling the Pattern illustrated this concept best in one of his brilliant videos. But the problem with this conception of the wheel is that the ages don't actually repeat. To repeat suggests that they are the same each time, which we know they are not. Robert Jordan himself explained it best, although this is a paraphrased response he gave in answer to an interview question in November 2000. When seen from a distance, each 3rd age has exactly the same pattern as the previous 3rd age. However, when seen up close, there are differences. Threads are different. Different nations exist. Geography is different. Different personalities rise to prominence. These changes, while minute in the grand scale of the pattern, affect the pattern enough so that while 2 iterations of an age are almost the same, the first 3rd age may be wildly different from the 100th 3rd age. I take this to mean that while certain major events like the rebirth of the dragon and the coming of Tarmangaiden would occur in every 3rd age, when looked at closely enough to see the details, there would be countless significant variations. And that is what I mean when I say that this show will be another turning of the wheel, a different 3rd age than the one that is chronicled in the books. Most of those major events from the books are going to occur in the show, but the specifics of how we get from one major point to the next are going to be different. The souls of the characters should be the same, but the details of their journey towards the last battle will be different. I believe this vision of the Wheel of Time, with a spiraling Ouroboros, which in the books is mentioned as an older depiction of eternity than the spoked wheel, better illustrates the concept of eternity with variations and changes in the details, even while certain major things remain the same. It doesn't suggest history repeating in a carbon copy. On the details of this teaser, I have to mention one final shout out that Amazon gave to existing book fans, because I think it shows they are really doing everything they can to reach out to the built-in fandom. Hidden in the Twitter crop of the new avatar for the official account is a message written in the old tongue. Kadome Kalichnie Gani Athaan Amanhai, which translated means, here is always a welcome for the people of the dragon. They know how the fans love to find hidden details. They use the old tongue, and they called us people of the dragon, which is a reference, of course, both to the books and also to the Twitter fandom, which chose the term Dragonsworn for itself. That came about in response to the account once calling us wheelies, which was a real dud. Let me also point out that I think we now have a definitive answer to what that flash of a mystery object we saw at the end of the Matt Dagger teaser was. If we compare the best image we have of that murky flash with a close-up on the details of the serpent, there seems to be an almost exact match. Not only that, but the one and only Brown Aja detective, Geeky Eri, recently revealed a similar flash in an unreleased version of the Moiraine teaser, which showed what looks to be the head of the serpent. It seems they may have originally planned a few of these little hints of their new logo and title sequence, but we now have the whole thing. I have to follow up on my theory at the time that the mystery in the Matt teaser was a dragon. And I wasn't quite correct, but I do think I was on the right track because there does seem to be some deliberate similarities here between the Great Serpent and the dragon. I still absolutely stand by my theory that the show will include misdirection about who the Dragon Reborn is in the first season. I went into much greater detail on that in this video. But it's pretty clear now that the reason that Great Serpent made an appearance in the Dagger teaser was to hint at this design, not the dragon. Last thing on the teaser is the music. And even though we never got an official answer on whether this music is from the show or the title sequence, I think there's a possibility that it is, unlike previous teasers which did not include original music. I hope this is original. I love the sound of it. Overall, this sequence is high quality, filled with symbolism, and I think it will be brilliant both for marketing and a title sequence. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comments, but first we got to get to some more news. Of course, we have some recent news and scoops from WatchSeries.com, including that filming for season 2 is expected to begin later this month, July 2021, and conclude in February 2022. That is coming from the Extras casting agency that's working on the show. And it's a filming period that's pretty consistent in length of time with the original planned filming period for season 1. And it also should hopefully conclude filming with enough time for the second season of the show to release approximately 1 year after the first debuts, assuming that's somewhere in the fall to early winter of this year. They also reported scoops on 2 directors who are likely on board for season 2, David Lowery and Sana Hamri. I will direct you to their website for more details, but their resumes are impressive, and it seems to continue the path the show is on of securing high-quality directors for what I'm guessing is, again, 2 episodes each in a season. Recently, Brandon Sanderson appeared on the Dusty Wheel talk show, and he answered as much as he could about the show within his NDA. He has read all of the scripts for season 1 and has been sent at least some of the scripts for season 2. I'm going to try to sum up his commentary here and the relevant information that he shared, but of course, go ahead and rewatch that live stream for more. He says the Wheel of Time is in very good hands with Rafe. He is pleased and says Rafe is a very good storyteller and very dedicated to the Wheel of Time. The big change in Brandon's brain happened when he said, you know what, I just have to treat this as a different turning of the wheel. This is not filming the books. It is some number of turnings in the future. It is a slightly different interpretation of the same story. He points out the narrative allows for and even encourages this kind of interpretation and says it should be the headcanon of fans going into the show. So now he is focused on, are the souls of the characters right and is the narrative good? And all of his answers to those questions are yes. These are the literal exact things that I have been saying for some time, especially as I've been focusing on my How to Adapt series. So I'm personally really glad to hear these answers and to have one of the authors of the series back up the view that I've been trying to promote in the fandom. We need to be prepared for significant changes, some of which will surprise us. As much as I have made a lot of this channel about attempting to figure out what kinds of changes we might expect to see and thinking about what reasons there are for those changes, there's no way that I'm going to figure it all out, and even I am going to end up being surprised. But this little exercise of mine is not really about getting all the details right ahead of time. It's about being prepared and considering what will really make the best narrative on screen rather than being more concerned about it staying as close as possible to the book narrative. It's about girding my loins, so to speak, as Rafe Judkins has told us to do. It's about cultivating a mindset that will allow me the possibility of loving this different interpretation of my favorite story in its own way. Now a little update on reading the pattern. I have been dealing with some illness lately, first my kids and now myself, so pardon the Kathleen Turner voice. So I have been uploading a little bit less frequently. My plan is for an every other week upload schedule. I'm trying to move my regular posting date to Sunday rather than Fridays, hoping the videos will do a little bit better. I will continue to cover big show news when it comes, so there might be some weeks where you can get something extra. But in general, I'm going to be alternating between How to Adapt Wheel of Time topics and then lessons from other fantasy adaptations. I finished my latest reread of The Dragon Reborn, so I can be scripting those videos now. I'm currently thinking of releasing them eventually as a playlist so people can binge rather than one at a time, hoping that will keep more people watching through all of the episodes. But that's still a ways away, and the release date for season 1 will probably affect whether I'm looking to release that this year or next year. So stay tuned. Also, of course, once the first season does release, I want to put out at least a video for each episode. And I want some of the content to be book spoiler free for people new to the series, but I also want some of it to be including book spoilers because, of course, I love to talk about those changes from book to screen. I'll give you more details as we get closer to a release date. But of course, subscribe. I will definitely be doing that, light willing. As always, I want to hear from you in the comments. Let me know your thoughts on this latest news, the teaser, when exactly you think the show is going to be released this year, what videos you're looking forward to from the channel. Share this video if you're in Wheel of Time groups on Facebook or Reddit, and like that smash button or whatever it is. And until next time, gird your loins, my friends.